Okay, so yesterday I showcased what exactly the QlikSense process flow, like why do we use it, and what are the different levels we use in a QlikSense to complete all the end-to-end report development, right? So today I'll just showcase how we can get the data from the databases and what are the basics things we should learn, we should keep in mind, I would say. So these are the uh, common points for beginners or the experts, whoever it is. These, there are 3 to 4 points which should be remembered uh, every time whenever you are using the QlikSense. So first, I'll create an application. So I'll create a new fresh application because these are my existing applications. I don't want to go with that existing applications. I will go with a new application called. So if you want to create a new application, just click on the create new application. So remember, if you are working on Power BI or Tableau, that different tools, you people call it as a report or data dashboards or applications, right? So here we call it everything. We call it as an application only. So some people call it as a report, some people call it as a dashboard, and some people call it as application. So both are same here. It's only we are having only single term. But when it comes to Power BI and other stuff, we will be having a three different scenarios. Like reports are different, dashboards are different, and applications are different, right? So if you are migrating from that tool to this tool, so this there will be only one application. We are there is, I mean, in QlikSense we have only a name called application, and most of the users are also call it as a dashboard report. Both are same. Okay, so first I'm going to create a new application, and I'm providing the name for it. For example, let's give a name demo April 24. Yeah, just create an application demo April 2024 application. So I'm just opening the entire application. Okay, so as soon as you open the application, since we didn't load anything, right? So it's just an empty application. We haven't loaded any data into this application yet. We just created and we just opened it. So whenever we don't have any data in the application, this analyze section and narrate section, these are completely in the disable state. And you cannot go into that sections until you load the data. So yeah, so currently we don't have data, right? So that's the reason these are the disable mode. So as soon as I load the data, this will be enabled. To load the data, to get the data or to load the data, we need to go into the prepare section. Okay, so prepare section, we have two options in the prepare section. One is the data manager, another is the data loader. So data manager is nothing but so system will automatically write a code for you based on your actions. System will automatically create it. So Power BI people might have a knowledge on it. Like whenever you do any actions in the Power Query, there is a M query will be generated for your actions, right? Similar way, if you're using the data manager, whatever you do, the code in the backend, the code will be generated by the system based on your actions. But this is not recommended. Data manager is not recommended because data manager is for a limited knowledge people. This is mainly for the end users, not for the developers. Okay, so we are not going to use the data manager as a developer. We always use the data loader. Data loader is the thing where you can write your complex logics. You can get the data, you can write whatever logics you need, custom logics, and you can make a joins of the tables, whatever you want. You can do everything in this data loader. There are certain limitations in the data manager, like if you're loading the huge amount of data, a table, I would say, so the data manager will not work properly. So as a developer, we always have to use the data data. So let's go to the data data. Either you can go with the data data from the prepare section, or else you can go to the data data from this section as well. Here is also you can have the data writer. Just click on it. So as soon as you click on the data writer, it will take you to the prepare section. Within the prepare section, we have the data writer. So just to see that, there are only two options here, right? We have currently like data manager, data writer in the prepare section. But as soon as you load the data, you will see multiple options. There are three more options. And at the same time, as soon as you load the data, this analyze section and narrate section will also be enabled. So before we load the data, just understand this section first. These are the predefined variables. Whenever you're creating any application in QlikSense, these variables will be created by default. What is this variables? So these are certain types. For example, if you have the numbers, let's say for example, we have a 10,000 number. So how the 10,000 will be shown? So we have the 1,000 separator. Let's say for example, we have a 10,000, and when you are showing it in the number format, that 10,000 will be presented like this because we are maintaining the 1,000 separator as a comma. So 1,000 separator, nothing but three zeros. After three zeros, you will get a comma because you mentioned 1,000 separator as a comma. And decimal points, nothing but dots. For example, if you have any numbers in the decimals, that decimals will be in the like this, for example. And Manilo 1,000 format again, Manilo decimal format and money format. So by default, we are in the uh, India, right? So that's the reason you're seeing the rupee symbol here. But whenever you, I mean, depends on your installation of the QlikSense servers. So those country currency will be show up in the report by default. So if your servers, if your client servers installed in the US, you will see by default money format is dollar. And if your client server is installed in the Europe countries, you will see euro symbol by default. And this is the money format, how they're presenting, and time format. This is the time format, date format, like you see, DDMMYYY format, date with timestamp. So these are the predefined variables. You can modify it based on your requirement. Let's say, for example, 1,000 separator. As an Indians or US country, whatever it is, we use 1,000 for the we use comma for the 1,000 separator. But in Europe, it's something different. In Europe, they use dot as a 1,000 separator. I'll come to this topic a little later, but these are the like predefined variables uh, within the QlikSense. Whenever you create any applications, you will see these 19 variables by default. If you want, you can comment out it. You can delete them, or if you want, you can modify them, or whatever you wish to do. So if you want to comment out these complete variables, select the quotes, and there is an option called double slash here. So if you click on that, this will be comment out the code. So whenever you are seeing this double slash, that is nothing but that code is commented out. So that will not execute. Whenever you load the data, this commented code will not load in the application. If I load this, these variables will not load because we comment out them. So if you want to load them back, if you want to uncomment them back, again select the same code and again select the same thing, which will uncomment the code. Okay, so there are different sections here. Like you will have a based on your requirement, you will have a different sections. Okay, you can create a number of sections. There is no limitations in the section creation. Sections are nothing but I would say in simple terms, it's nothing about the each section we will be maintaining a separate topic, I would say. So in other words, if you're writing the exam paper, So what we generally do, so we write one question answer in one page, and sometimes we go to the next for next question, we'll go write it in the second another page, right? So similarly, I'll load one table data here, and I'll do all the transformations, all the logics related to the table here within this section, and I'll go to the next section. I'll take the another table. So because to prepare one data model, we definitely need different tables. So that is the reason I'm going to maintain a separate section for each table, and I'll do all kind of my all the transformations related to the table within that section. You can create a number of sections. We'll come to this point. Let's delete them for now. Okay. So there is again, beside the section option, if you click on section, the sections will show up. Otherwise, you can hide them. And if you want to search anything, for example, if you want to search, for example, day. So whenever you select the day, so that related words will be highlighted in this color. So day is now repeated 11 times within this particular section, main section. So you can refer in all section as well. If you have multiple sections, you can select, you can search in all the sections at a time. That's one place. And you can also use the replace option. So you can select the day and you can replace them with whatever values you want, name you want. You can click on the replace, and that things will be replaced. For example, I have a day, I'm going to change it to days. And I click on replace and replace in all sections at a time. So now you can see now days, now day now changed to days. But that is the way of you can use the search option. You can search it, and you can also do the replace option with the search. And these symbols are nothing but the adjusting the code. For example, if you want to adjust the code right to left, something like that. So you can use these options. And the right side, you will see options called data sources, debug option, and load data. So load data, nothing but once you get the data from the databases, you need to load it. To see the data in the QlikSense application, you need to load it. So this is the option load. Data sources, nothing but connections to the data network. This is more like a connection to databases or connection to your local files. Let's say, for example, you have an Excel files in your C drive or E drive. And if you want to connect your QlikSense, if you want to load the data, that Excel data into QlikSense, first you need to create a connection. So connection is a mandatory thing because let's say, for example, if you're sending a message in a WhatsApp, you definitely need a mobile connection, right? So without mobile connection, you cannot send without mobile connection or Wi-Fi connection, you cannot send the message to your friends or whoever it is. Similarly, to load the data from an Excel file or from the database, first you need to create a connection. If it is Excel file, where that Excel file is located, whether it is in C drive or D drive, wherever it is. Or if it is from the database, you need to create a database connection. So these database connections, generally, these things will be taken care by the admin team in real-time scenario. But here, we're going to create it now. So real time లో అయితే అడ్మిన్స్ చూసుకుంటారండి. సో దిస్ యాక్టివిటీ కంప్లీట్ గా డేటాబేసెస్ అంటే కనెక్షన్స్, whatever connections you need, you should reach out to your admin team and they will create the connections for you. Okay, if not the case, some rare cases, you will have to create the connections. That's a very rare case because in each and every project you will be having at least one admin, at least one QlikSense admin. So they will generally take care of all the connections things, all the stuff. Okay, so let me show you that how we can create a connection. So I have one database here. I have one SQL Server database. So I have an SQL database here. So where I have two databases, AdventureWorks OLTP, AdventureWorks Data Warehouse 2022. So these are the two databases I have in my local SQL server. I need to load the data from this AdventureWorks OLTP database. So we have, if I expand this, I can see the tables. So this is my database tables. So within this AdventureWorks OLTP, I have a table called mm, I'll take the sales order details, for example. Let's see what data we have. So this is the SQL code. Okay, ignore about this top 1000. So this is the SQL code we use to see the data in the particular table. E table low. If you want to see the data from this table, this is the code we can use, and this is the data we have in the each field. So we have a total, how many records we have? We have only 1000 rows. Okay, so we have 1000 rows of data in this sales order details. Let's load the same data in the QlikSense by connecting to this database, and let's load this same data within the QlikSense. So for this, first I need to create a connection to my database, connection to my this AdventureWorks OLTP database. So for this, so let's right click on this database and go to the properties. So there is an option called view connection properties. So click on the view connection properties. So there you can see we have the database name called AdventureWorks OLTP. So let's copy that code, database name, and go to the create new connection. So there are different data sources we have. Okay, if you have the if you have an Excel file in your local system, then you can use the folder option. But for now, I'm going to use the SQL server. So the Microsoft SQL server in the connections. So here is the one, Microsoft SQL server. So just click on it. So just provide the server name. Currently, my database is located in my local system. So that's the reason I can use the local host as my server. In real time, this will be different only because your database will be stored in the separate machine. Your QlikSense will be installed in the separate machine. So in that case, you will have the different server name here. But in my case, both QlikSense and database both are in my local system. So I can simply use the local host. Okay, so database, copy the database name that I just copied it from the connection properties. So Adventure Works OLTP, and we have to provide the username and password. So for the username, so this is the username. So my name is my username. So let's go to that and then providing a password. So I'm giving a name instead of the Microsoft SQL Server localhost. I'm providing the Adventure Work OLTP. I'm giving a meaningful name for this Adventure Work OLTP and just click on test connection first. If the connection is succeeded, we can create it. So select connection is succeeded, which means nothing but our QlikSense is able to connect to that database, that SQL Server database. So the connection is succeeded. Just click on close and now click on create. So as soon as you create the connection will list out here. So there you can see we created a connection. That connection is created successfully. So let's say, for example, if you wish to connect to your local machine, let's say, for example, I have a data in my C drive. I want to load the data into my QlikSense application. So first create a connection, go to the folder. So I'm choosing the folder option because I need to. So within the C driver, users, hello, documents, there is a folder called Qlik. Okay, within the Qlik Sense, again, I got the architecture folder, and source file is my folder where I maintain all the Excel files. Okay, so source files. So this is the path. Yeah, you can do the copy paste of the path if you want. If you have stored it in the separate place, just copy that path and paste it here. That's also possible. First, you need to give a name. So this is the source file, for example. Just first provide the name and click on create. Once you create the connection only, then you can able to get the data. While creating the connection, you cannot get the data. First you have to create it. You have to create and you have to see that list, see the connection here. Then only you can get the data from that particular folders or databases. So what I'm going to do, I create a new connection, new section, sorry. I go to the database, Adventure Work OLTP. And here we have the option called select data. So here we have the insert connection string. The pencil icon is nothing but the edit connection. And the middle option is select data. You need to select it. So select the data. And what table we choose in the SQL earlier. The sales order details. Okay, let's go to the sales order details. Sales table. You can filter the table sales order details. This is the one we just selected. We queried in the database earlier. So the same table we're gonna take it. So for now, I'm ignoring this option. By default, include load statement is enabled. I'm just unchecking that for now. Okay. And just click on. As soon as you see, there are 11 columns in it. You can see list of 11 columns we have. And what are the 11 columns? Those are tick marked already. If you don't want to carry this, and if you don't want to this field into Qlik Sense, you can unselect this. If you don't want any fields, you can simply do unselect. But I'll keep all the fields for now, all the 11 fields. Just click on insert state. So there you can see the same code, whatever you are seeing here in the database, the same code is now showing up in the Qlik Sense now. There you can see select sales order. This is the Qlik Sense. This is SQL Server. So same thing, sales order ID, carry tracking number, order quantity, product ID, special officer ID, unit price, line total, row GUID, modified date, and then from Adventure Works OLTP dot sales order details. The same SQL code is now appearing in the Qlik Sense as well. So now let's load this data and see how many records we're getting. So it's connected to the database. So 1,21,317. Let's see same number of records we have or not. So to see the row count, I can simply use select count of star. So how many rows we have in this particular table? Let's see that. So you can see 121,317. These are the number of rows we have. And in Qlik Sense also, we're getting the 121,317. So we're getting the same number from the database. Now done. So now you can see we loaded the data. We get the data from the databases and we load it into Qlik Sense application. As soon as you load the data, there you can see this analyze section is enabled and storytelling is enabled. So previously, when you didn't, before you load the data, these options are in the disable mode. And before you load the data, you will see only two options in the prepare section: data manager, data editor. But now as soon as you load the data, you will seeing the data model viewer. What is this data model viewer? Basically, so data model viewer is nothing but a graphical representation of your code. Let's say you have a multiple tables loaded, how these tables are connected. So if you can see that in the graphical way. So data model viewer is nothing but the graphical representation of your code, whatever you are loading the data. So that is, that code will represent in a graphical way. So currently I loaded only one table. So that's the reason you're not seeing any links. But if you're loading more than one tables, so let's load another table. If I want to load, let's edit connection, it's not correct. So select the data. So I'm loading the another table. Sales order headers. I will take these headers. So for this one, I included the load statement. So let's ignore this as well for now. I'll talk about this little later. So we don't need this two times because we're connecting only one time. So now let's see. I loaded sales order details, sales order headers, two tables I have loading. Let's see that how these tables will be shown in the data model view. So there's an issue come up here. Let's load this. Let's do one thing. I'm just commenting two codes, two fields, row GUID and modified date. I don't want to load those two fields. Okay, so for now, like 1,21,000 and 31,465 from the sales order headers. And sales order details, we are getting 1,21,317. So let's go to the data model viewer. There you can see. So this is the representation of your backend code. So you have loaded only two tables, but you don't know how they are connected, how exactly they connected together. So this is how you can see the data. So these two tables are connected with the sales order ID. So Qlik Sense will do a automatic connection between the tables when two tables having the similar names. If you're having the similar name in two tables, Qlik Sense will automatically connect it. Okay, but this is not the recommended way of doing it. You cannot blindly depend on the uh, what it called the query sets. So you need to go with the exact fields. So in real time, most of the cases they will provide you SQL queries. Business will provide the SQL queries, and in that SQL queries, whatever they mention for the joins between the two tables, so those should be followed. Okay, so you cannot blindly whenever you load the two tables, okay, these are two connected by default. You cannot blindly go with that. The existing connections, the whatever connections that are connected, these two tables, whether those are correct or not. You should see that. You should check that. Okay, so by default, so if you're coming from the different, other than the Qlik Sense, if you're coming from the Power BI background, let's say for example, whenever you're connecting two tables, you will see two different options. One is one-to-many relationships, many-to-many relationships, or single direction or both directions. So Qlik Sense doesn't require that kind of details. By default, this will do many-to-many relations or one-to-many relationships, and it will act both directions by default. There is no way of like you can manually setting up the both directions. Qlik Sense by default work as a both directions. You can do whatever selections in this table that will affect this table, and you can do any selections in this table that will affect this table. So you don't need to specify, okay, this should be one from this direction to this direction, or from this direction to this direction. So it's by default, it's a both directions. Okay, so this is how two tables are connected. And let's go to the sheet section. And sheet section, currently we haven't created any charts. We just loaded the data. We're done with our data model part. Let's assume that. Now we need to create a reports. So go to the come to the analyze section, and you need to add the charts. So just click on the edit sheet. So create your first visualization. You just need to drag and drop the charts. That's the one way, or else you can drag and drop the fields. That way also system will generate the reports. Okay, first I'll go with the options here. So fields option, nothing but whatever tables you loaded in the prepare section. In that table, how many fields you have, those fields will be listed out here in the field section. So by default, it shows all tables fields. If you want to see sales order detail level fields, what are the fields coming from the sales order, you can select that particular table and it will list out all the fields from the particular table. And if you want to go to the sales order header level fields, so these are the header level fields. You can filter your tables and you can see corresponding fields. But if you want to see all fields at a time, so you can select all tables. So that will list out all the fields. You can query the fields if you want. You can, for example, if I select amount or the price, unit price. Okay. So we have the price is the measure. So let's, for example, I need to drag and drop this. So system will generate the KPI for it. And you can, if you want to change this to a different chart, you can just drag and drop the bar chart, for example. And if you want to add any other let's say, for example, sales order number. So this is the way, like, you can change the chart. But there's an option called Insight Advisor. I will show you that in the QlikSense cloud version. That Insight Advisor basically will generate all the reports for you. So you don't need to manually create any reports. System will create a reports. All you need to do is, like, you need to select the whatever fields you want. You can just select it. System will take care of rest of the things. So nowadays report creation is like very I mean, it's not taking more than 1 day of time only. Earlier, like we used to manually create the reports. We used to like take the charts and then we used to add the dimension measures, all the stuff. But now the Insight Advisor, there is a option in the report section called Insight Advisor. That Insight Advisor will take care of all the charts. Whatever charts you want, you can select it, or whatever fields you need, you can select it, and based on the selections, that system will generate the reports, and that reports are very accurate to the end users. Okay, so let's come to the again data model part, data load editor. So I just want to mention two things here. One is Qlik is completely case sensitive. So you should remember these points. These are the mandatory points. So let's say, for example, basics of the Qlik Sense here is okay. So first thing, Qlik is a complete case sensitive. Okay, so when you are referring with the capital A, let's say, for example, you are, so this sales order details. If you want to refer this in another next time, for example, you can take the duplicate, you can take the copy of this table in a QlikSense n number of times. Okay, and if you are taking a copy of this table, you should refer the sales order ID as it is. How exactly this present in the first table, in the copy table also, you should take care of the same thing. Let's say, for example, if you're considering it as in the different format, let's say, for example, I'm considering a load. So remember one thing, whenever you're using the SQL code, the first execution will be select statement and followed by everything will be load statements. So in SQL, we will be having the select statement to see the data, right? Whenever, if you wish to see any data from any particular table, we will go with the select statement. So similar way, in Qlik Sense, we will be having the load statement. Instead of the select, we will be having the load statement. That's it. That's the only difference. So here I use the SQL code for the first time to get the data from the databases. So to get the data from the databases, obviously we need a select statement because this SQL code will execute against the database and get the data. So to see the data in the database table, we use the select statement. That's where I use the select statement. That is only one time. But whenever you use that same table again and again, then every time you need to go with the load statement. So only for the first time, it will be a select statement followed by the load statements. So select statement, what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy all this as is. So instead of the select, I'll put the load statement. So as soon as we put the load statement, you can see the colors of the fields are changed. So when you're using the select statement, these are showing black colors. But whenever you're using the load statement, these are changed to orange colors. So this orange color indicates the field names. So remember things, whatever you're seeing in the blue color, those are functions. In a Qlik Sense, whatever you're seeing the blue color, those are Qlik commands or Qlik functions. So those can be either any format. You can use the uppercase, lowercase, whatever it is. Only the commands or functions which are in blue color are not case sensitive. Remember, okay? So only the functions. Yeah. So blue color is a functions. Functions are only not case sensitive in Qlik Sense. Apart from the functions, any color you will see, those are the complete case sensitive. Apart from the blue color, we have the brown colors, we have the green, we have the pink, we have the purple. So brown, it's not a brown, it's orange actually. So if you see in the orange color, those are fields, those are case sensitive. If you are seeing the green color, those are values in the field, those are also case sensitive. If you are seeing the pink color, those are variables. There you can see pink color, those are variables. This will also be case sensitive. When you are referring the variable with these month names with M capital, N capital, so whenever you're referring this variable, you should consider in the same format. So in this case, for example, sales order ID is the S is capital, O is capital, ID is capital. Let's say I'm referring this with this small sales order ID. S, just only one simple change. Instead of capital S, I consider only small s. And let's load the data. There you can see field sales order ID not found. You can see small s, it's starting with the small s. So field which is starting with the small s sales order ID is not found in the SQL query because in the SQL query, we are seeing the capital S sales order ID. But I am referring in the load statement, I am referring it as a small s sales, small s. So which are completely both are different. In Qlik Sense case, this is different, this is different. So this field is not available in this select statement, so it's unable to find it. So that's the reason it's showing the sales field is not found, error message. So Qlik is completely case sensitive in terms when it comes to using the fields, variables, and values in the fields, not the this command blue colors things. For example, if I put the same load in the capital letter, that's also works. If I put everything in the small letter, that's also works. Only the blue colors are the not case sensitive. They can be either uppercase or lowercase, whatever it is. But apart from the blue colors, whatever you're seeing the different colors, so those must be accurate. Those must be case sensitive. Those are completely case sensitive. So whenever you're referring any field, you have to keep check that whether you have written in the exact format or not. So I'm going to have this sales. For example, I will change this to complete sales order ID, uppercase sales order ID. Again, you will get the same error because complete up sales order ID is different. This sales order ID is not equals to this sales order ID. Okay, that's the one thing, the case sensitive. That's the one thing. And second thing, it loads all the data step by step. Step by step, nothing but if you want to see the step by step option. For example, what is meant by step by step? First, whatever present in the first section, in that first section, it will go step by step. Line 1 will be first check. Line 2 will be checked. Line 3 will be checked. All the step by step execution will be done. So after 19th section, 19th line, there is no code in this. So it will go to the next section. And again, it will start from line number 1, line number 3, 4, like that. So it will be only step by step process. So keep in mind, each and every line of code or each and every load statement, you must have the semicolon at the end. If you are using a variable, variable ends with the semicolon. And load, a table load statement will end with semicolon. Connection name ends with semicolon. If you don't put semicolon at the end, that line will not be considered as the single line. So if you don't put the semicolon there, you will see red color. If you are seeing the red color means there is an error. If you are seeing red color here, which means there is an error before this line. You are seeing the red color in this third line, which means there is an error before this third line. And it will how it will consider, so it will consider the basically whenever you're having the semicolon, this is considered as a one line. If you don't have the semicolon, these two lines will be considered as a semicolons because it started here and semicolon is here. So system consider from here to the semicolon, these are completely considered as a one line. So that's where semicolon is mandatory. So in the QlikSense, in the load case, so this entire load statement will be considered as a single line because we're not having the separate semicolon at the each field. So this will be one line of code, and from this will be one line of code, and this will be one line of code. So system will consider from the starting to the semicolon, it will consider as a single line. If you don't put a single semicolon, then it will consider how many lines. For example, if I didn't put the semicolons here, two semicolons, I missed two semicolons. So system will consider from line number 14, it's not ended because if I didn't find the semicolon, it will go to the 15th line. It will also consider the same line because it also doesn't have the semicolon. It will come to 16th line, and here we have the semicolon. So complete line number 14 to 16, it will consider as a single line. So that's the one case. So you should remember this. So semicolon is mandatory for anything, for any load, any variable execution, any kind of things. So at the end, semicolon is a mandatory thing. So first thing is the case sensitive. QlikSense is the case sensitive. Second thing is the semicolon is a mandatory thing for anything, for any load statement or any variable execution. And third thing is the step-by-step execution. What does it mean by step-by-step execution? Let's see that. So if I load the data, you don't see step-by-step execution. It will directly go to the connected section. It will go to the sales order section. It will connect it to the database and it get the data. and that's it. But if you want to see the step-by-step execution, there's an option called debug. There's an option called debug here. If I click on the debug, okay, so now if I click on this play icon here, step action, there you can see that row, whatever row is executing, that is highlighting. So first line of code is executing, and we'll go to the next slide. Next slide. Step-by-step execution. One after another, it will be executed one after another. So broken, you can see that what line of code is executing here. First month of the year variable. So collation locale, create search index equal to 1. Month names variable, long month names variable, day names variable, and long day names variable, and numerical abbreviation. Okay, next thing is the numerical abbreviation. Okay, this is the one. And after this one, 19th line, there is no code in this section. So it will go to the, you can see, it will go to the next section. So within the next section, so this line of code is considered as a one line because we put the semicolon here. And then it will go to the table. So this table execution will be done. Yeah, there you can see. So this entire thing will be considered as a single line. And this entire line, entire select statement from the select to semicolon at the end. So this will be considered as the second thing. And again, sales order. And this is done. You have reached end of your load state. We are done with that. So this is called step-by-step execution. So system will consider from this state, from this semicolon, end of the semicolon to the next semicolon, the entire thing will be considered as a single line. And from this semicolon to next semicolon, this entire thing will be considered as a single line. So that's how the system will consider. But that's the reason, that's the important part. Semicolon is the important point for any end of the load statements or any variable statements. So step-by-step execution is the one thing. Qlik is a step-by-step execution. Second thing is the QlikSense is a case sensitive. Third thing, just a minute. So case sensitive, step-by-step execution. And the next thing is, what is the next thing? Third point, I covered one thing. So semicolon, sorry, yeah. Semicolon is mandatory for each and every line of code. So these are the 3 points. And what will happen now? So what is happening when I load the data? So as soon as you click on the load data, this entire data, whatever you loaded in this application, this complete data is loading into the memory, into our system RAM. మన జనరల్గా మన ల్యాప్టాప్లో ర్యామ్స్ ఉంటాయి కదండి. QlikSense మన మొబైల్స్లో కానీ ల్యాప్టాప్లో ర్యామ్ ఉంటుంది కదా, ఆ ర్యామ్లో స్టోర్ అవుతుంది. సో ఇట్ విల్ స్టోర్ ఆల్ ద డేటా ఇన్ ద ర్యామ్. How it stores in the RAM? In the form of binary codes. So if people are not aware of the binary code, so binary codes, how it converts the binary codes, for example. So there you can see 0, nothing but binary code 0, 1, nothing but 1. So 2, nothing but 1, 0, 3, nothing but 1, 1, 4, nothing but 1, 0, 0, 5, nothing but 1, 0, 1. So this is called binary code. So if you get this kind of data, you will see this kind of data will be stored in the memory. And similar way, if you have alphabets, binary code for alphabets, so this is A. So this is A. Binary code for A is like this. Binary code for B is this. Binary code for C is this. And D is this. E. So each and every value, each and every record that you are loading into QlikSense, in the loading into the QlikSense, so that will be converted into the binary code in the memory. So system will store the data in the form of binary codes. But whenever you try to see the data, it will give the accurate data again. So even though it is converting into the binary code, but whenever you're taking it in the charts, it will show accurate data again. So let's say, for example, I'll take this account number. So this account number, basically in the backend, in the memory, it converted to binary code. But in the reports, when it comes to reports, it's showing accurate data now. That's how the QlikSense engine works. So when storing the data, it stores in the binary format, but whenever you want to see, it shows in the actual form. So that's the format. Load data, whatever you write in a QlikSense will be stored into RAM in the form of binary codes. It's a case sensitive, step-by-step execution. And this ETL tool, visualization tool, I discussed about it. And next thing is the QVF file. So similarly, like for each and every file, we will be having a separate extension. Okay. So let's say, for example, you are working in Excel file. Excel file will be saved with the .xlsx. Word document will be saved with .doc. Now .docx, I would say. If it is a text value, it will be saved in the .txt. If it is CSV, it will save it as a .csv. So each and every file, we will be having a separate extension. .csv, .xlsx, .docx, those are extensions. So similarly, QlikSense file will be stored in the form of QVF. But where it is located? So whenever you're installing the QlikSense in your local machines, so within the document section, there is a folder called Qlik will be created. As soon as the installation is completed, you will see Qlik folder here. So if you go to the Qlik and within the QlikSense and then Sense, go to apps. These are the apps folders. So whatever you create in your desktop or your application, your QlikSense, those files, those hard copies, there you can see demo April 2024.qvf, which will be stored in the form of .qvf format. So this QVF file, if you want to share it with anyone else, you can attach this QVF file to that email address and you can send it. So similarly, if anyone want to share it, you have to download that file and you have to copy that file into this apps folder. So remember one thing, if you want to open a QlikSense file in your local desktop, you must have to copy that file into this particular folder, this particular QlikSense apps folder. If you're not copying that file into this folder, then you cannot open that application. Okay, if you don't copy the file, for example, I'm just cutting this application and I'm saving it outside the apps folder, for example. So I save the outside apps folder. Let's refresh it. There you can see the app you specified could not be found because I moved the app out of that particular folder. So whatever apps that are present in my apps folder, only that will be accessible through desktop. If I don't copy the file into this particular folder, then you cannot open that application and you cannot see that application in QlikSense desktop. For example, say go to this QlikSense hub and if refresh, for example, where is that demo? So here we have a demo, right? If I refresh it, you will not see this app because I moved that app out of that apps folder. There you can see demo 2024 we have, but demo April 2024 is not there. Because I moved the tab from the tab folder. Again, if you want to see that, you can just copy this again and paste in the apps folder. And if I come here, there you can see demo April 2024. As soon as copy, I can see that application here. And if I try to refresh it again, it will open now. Because I just copied that code application into apps folder. So that's one of the key things you should remember. So file format will be .qvf and that will be available in the apps folder, Qlik Sense apps folder. So whenever you install the desktop versions, in the documents folder, there's a Qlik folder will be created. And within the Qlik folder, we have the Sense, and within the Sense, you will have the apps folder. So within the apps folder, you will find all the hard copies of your whatever your applications you created in desktop. Those hard copies will be available here. And in case if anyone want to share with you, you need to download that file and you need to paste that file in this particular folder. Then only you can see them in the QlikSense desktop. So any questions, anyone?
I have one question related to the load statement you have shown here.
Yep.
So can you show that one? So whenever we are selecting any table from the database, first we need to mention the load statement followed by all the variable, and after that again we need to write the select statement.
No, load statement is not a mandatory now. It's just
Select
a
statement.
yeah.
Because
Select statement is the first time statement. That's what I was mentioning, right? So whenever only for the first time you will have whenever you're getting the data from the table, you will be having the select statement. Once you loaded the data into QlikSense and all the data will be in the memory, right? So whenever you try to reuse the same table, so then from that statement onwards, you need to use the load statement.
no, you have mentioned 2 times for the same table there, no? So because of that, I ask you.
Yeah, because I just want to showcase that case sensitivity option. So I loaded select statement with one time and I want to reuse that same table, but I'm referring with a different name this time, different field names. So I just wanted to showcase how the case sensitivity works. That's how I took the load statement.
Can you share the screen one more time, that load statement? Yeah. Here the load statement they have. So after removing the last select statement also it will work.
After?
You have mentioned load statement. After that semicolon, all the variable, then semicolon, and after that you have mentioned the select statement from adventure OLTP that you have mentioned. So if I remove the last line, that means the from select to this adventure wall, whether it will work, it will not work, no?
No, it will not work because the first thing. So yeah, so here's the problem. So what will happen when I write like this? So first the select statement will be execute and it will create a one table.
Oh, then
Okay.
it will load. Okay.
So from that table, the load statement will consider.
Okay. So we need to define all the variable in the load statement, whatever it is available in the select statement. That is, no?
So variables is completely different. Load is completely different here.
No. My question here is that you have mentioned in the select statement all the variable, na, cell order ID, cell order detail ID. So all this variable which you have mentioned in the select statement.
Those are not variables. Those are fields.
These are all the fields. So that field also we need to define in the load statement, na?
Yeah, because let's say for example, so this is the scenario. Okay, so we need to get all the data from the select statement. Okay, all the fields from the database, and whatever fields you require, you can add them to the load statement. Only that will be considered as a table. So what is happening here is first it will get the data from the database. It will create a one virtual table. Okay, and from that table, I'm adding the load statement. I can do the renamings here. For example, I can do the renames. You can do the rename within the SQL as well, but Let's say, for example, I don't want this row ID at modified date. I can comment out it. So in future, for example, for now I can use only up to line total, but I'll get the complete data from the select statement. I get the row ID modified date, but I'm not loading into QlikSense by commenting this code. So whenever you try to include the inside the SQL statement, that's where I already showed you that by default there is an include load statement will be enabled. So whenever you, let's say for example, I'll take the same table again. I'll remove this. So sales order. Just a minute. My battery is low. So let's say, for example, I select the same sales order details. So by default, you can see load statement is enabled by default. You can see the load script here. If I enable the load, if I include the load statement, the load statement will automatically add it. If I remove this, if I unselect this, you will see only select statement. So let's include this load statement inside script. There you can see the system automatically added the load statement. So what is happening here is first, so assume this is our Qlik Sense and this is database. Okay. So if I want to get a table from the database, obviously we need to write the select statement. So because database will not allow the load statement, but Qlik Sense act as a load statement, database works with the select statement. So to query any table in database, you definitely need a select statement. To query any table in the Qlik Sense, you definitely need a load statement. So first, whenever you're trying to connect to the database for the first time, for any table, first statement will be select statement. You're passing the select statement to the database, and in return, you will get the data. Okay. And whenever, once you get the data, that will be a virtual table kind of thing. Okay. So if I want to use this virtual table again in my Qlik Sense, so from that onwards, you definitely need a load statement. You cannot use the select statement again because you're passing the select statement and you're getting the output in the virtual tables, one small kind of table. And if you want to reuse the same table, the copied table, you definitely need a load statement. You cannot use the select statement again on the same table. So that's what's happening here. So we are passing the select statement to the database. We'll get the data. That will be one virtual table. And I'm going to use the table in a Qlik Sense again. So that's where I use the load statement.
Yeah, clear. Thank you. Yeah.
So any other questions, anyone?
So so we need to directly install Qlik Sense from the internet and directly it will work, or any connection, anything else?
No. You can install the Qlik Sense, but the problem here is you cannot access that. So Qlik Sense is not a free version. You need a license for that. So I'll be sharing the license. So that will work till May 13th. And after the May 13th, I'll share the one more license, which will be another 90 days. So overall, you will get 120 days of license. So by using the license, you can use the Qlik Sense.
Okay. Yeah.
So we just talked about the basics of the Qlik Sense only, like how we get the data, then what are the case sensitivity things and what are the step-by-step execution and all this stuff. So we need to cover the QED creation. That's one of the important point. So for each and every table in the database, we have to create a QED first. That's the first thing. And by using that QEDs, we have to build the data models. So in database terms, we call it as a tables, and the same table will create a QED. So in QlikSense, in database, those are tables. In QlikSense, we call it as a QEDs. And by using the QEDs, we'll create a data models. And once they're using the data models, we create a charts. So this is the three-tier architecture. I'll talk about the architecture tomorrow. So tomorrow is also a demo session, and we'll start the actual training part from Monday. Okay, so the SQL part will be covered first. The initial 1 week will be the SQL trainings, and then so SQL, basic level SQL is equal to QlikSense scripting. So whatever you have in the basic level SQL, so same thing will be available in the QlikSense. So if you understand the SQL, then QlikSense is very easy for you. So SQL is mandatory, not only for QlikSense, any BI tools. Keep in mind, it's not only for the QlikSense. So SQL is mandatory for Power BI, SQL is mandatory for Tableau, SQL mandatory is for Looker, Oracle, whatever, how many BI tools we have in the market. So for any BI tools, we definitely need SQL, because by using the SQL only, we'll get the data, we'll create the reports, same thing.
So the class timing will be from Monday to Friday, no? From 8 to 10.
So
9?
Monday to Saturday, but timings are not yet decided. So I'm assuming it will be 9 to 10. But yeah, it depends on the number of people sorting. So we'll take the class accordingly. Or 8 to 9 or 9 to 10. We'll decide that.
Okay.
So mostly, I'll mostly prefer 8 to 9. But even some people are saying, okay, 9 to 10 is feasible for them. So yeah, it depends on everyone's flexibility. So we'll decide the timings.
Hi, Vamsi.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah. See, it's not data load, right? Data load. So we have seen this folder and SQL Server database. So I have one doubt. You see, if you see in Power BI perspective, we can directly import, we can directly load from Excel files and all. Since here, I think we have to follow only folder. Is there any connection between only Excel? I want to say there is Excel file, flat files. So I need to connect with flat
Anything.
files. There is no
Anything, not only Excel. So if you have any CSV files, Parquet files, wherever it is. So first you need to create a connections.
Okay.
Okay. Even Power BI also, you need to, for example, you need to get the data. You will select the Excel files. Where you go to the particular path, right?
Yes, particular path only I will go.
Yeah,
Wherever that
here also,
storing. Yeah.
Here also like the same thing, but you need to define the connection first.
Okay. See,
Okay.
if you select, no, I mean, in this one doubt is there. If you select folder, as my understanding, you see whatever the files will be added in that folder, particular folder, it will combine and will give you like append. It will append and it will give you the old
No,
result,
it will
right?
not append. It will not append.
Okay.
But there is a logic to append everything. But by default, it will list out all the tables. So you can select whatever file you need. You can select that.
Okay. So if it is a
Otherwise,
continuity file, if it is a continuity table, for example, I have Jan data, then they are going to add February data, and then they are going to add monthly, March data.
yeah,
Like
in that
monthly, they will
case,
have going to add. So
yeah, in that case, there is while loading the data, there is an option called like what exactly the name conversion. For example, sales underscore January, sales underscore Feb, sales underscore March, right? So
okay.
while loading that Excel file, we can put sales underscore star. So it will consider all the Excel files starting with the
Okay.
sales underscore. So it will load all the Excel files and it combined everything.
Okay. If it is that name is matching with all files, so it will combine automatically.
It will
Otherwise, it
combine
will take a
everything.
different table to.
Right. Right.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
So yeah, I understand your question. So in Power BI, like you maintain the folder for appending the tables, appending the files, right? So yeah, understand. So it's not gonna work like that. So it will be a separate file until you specify that whether to combine it or not.
Yes, yes. Actually, no, in Power BI, there are two different things are there. We can choose each file differently, and then
Yeah.
if you choose folder, automatically it will combine everything and then
Yeah.
view. If there is
Right.
error, it will throw error. If it is matching with all the records and the columns and or whatever it is there, so it will take combine and will give the throw result and all. So yeah, so
Right.
that's what I had a different this thing.
Right. Yeah.
Because since there is no single selection, right? We cannot
Yeah.
take Excel file directly or the CSV file directly like this.
Right. Right.
Vamsi garu,
Yeah.
once the connection has been built with SQL, okay, so the data is flowing into Qlik,
Right.
okay, and we are selecting that, and afterwards we are loading it. And you said that in Qlik it will get into memory.
Memory.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this connection is something where SQL data is keep changing every time, right? So every time, real time, the data will be flowing, or how it is?
Yeah. Real time, like every time data will be flown. Like you set up the timings to reload the application, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the tomorrow session, like I'll talk about this in detail.
Okay.
So
Okay.
what will happen? So first we'll get the data and we'll create a QVDs. So this QVD, we are maintaining the separate applications for data extractions. Okay. So let's say, for example, in real time, we will be having 100 plus of tables. Okay. So these 100 plus tables, every time like connecting to the database is not a correct one. So what will happen? So what we do, we get the data through one or two applications, and we get all the tables from the database, and we'll create a QVDs. And by using those QVDs, we will be using the data. We will be creating the data models. So this is the on-time process only. Like they'll set up these reloads like every 1 hour or every 2 hours. So this will run against the database and then get the latest data into your QVDs. And by using the QVDs, we'll refresh the data sets and reports. So there is no such table kind of things in the Power BI. I believe like you cannot store data into the Power BI in a tables kind of things. So it will be either live connection or imported mode. That's it in the Power BI. But when it comes to QlikSense, there is a concept called QVD, which is nothing but the database table. Okay. So these tables, instead of every time connecting to the database, we connect to the QVDs every time. That's it. So
Okay.
this will be a real-time data every time.
Okay. Thanks.
QVDs will have the latest data in it too. So how many of you are coming from Power BI background?